kids are Jizzle Jam. Plug it in and I jam. Yeah.
I just need one more bump.
Being sensitive is a good
Well,
thing.
Okay, we're back on the air here. I don't know what that was. We're going to have a meeting after the show. But welcome back.
A meeting about what?
Don't worry, Stella. It won't be about you. Okay, so we're here with Elliott Katz is joined us again. Elliott, great to see you again.
good to be here.
And we've had such an overwhelming response to your book, being the strong man a woman wants, that we had to get you back on the show because people have been calling in. We've been running some of your previous interviews. People are calling in, wanting to get their hands on the book. And
If they call in today, we have a few copies right here. How about that?
well, I'll tell you what, because this is going to go up on the internet, we will honor those requests.
Yes.
Just send an email to us here. Contact us at ThatChannel.com and put strong man in the subject line, and we'll get a book to you until supplies run out, and then we'll put you in touch with Elliott.
Yes.
So, Elliott, now I know we already had an interview, so maybe Stella has a question, because I know, Stella, you agree, right? You agree. It's all about being a strong man.
Well, strength for a man that I admire comes in many forms and in many ways. What seems strong to most people is not necessarily the strengths I look for. And you have a great thing here at the beginning of the chapter. If you don't lead, I can't dance. So basically, we women are looking for a guy to lead so they can dance with us. And it's all about the dance, isn't it?
Well, that's an interesting question because there was one psychologist who said they talk about the couples dance, right? When one steps forward, the other steps back. But really, in the book, we say it's really the opposite. Well, not the opposite, but different. It's if the man doesn't lead in a dance, the dance doesn't work. The person can't dance. The woman can't dance.
That's right.
So, you know, in that kind of dancing, the woman wants the man to take the lead, or else, like, she's not really dancing with anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but strength in a man, as I was saying even before the show, because we were discussing this prior to you coming on, I love a deep, quiet strength in a man, and let me expand on that. I love a man when he is able to open himself completely up, share his vulnerabilities with me, even though he's afraid of what maybe other people have said to him. Don't be afraid to share them with me. And being in the moment, living in the moment, I think is one of the most crucial things, because you're not taking all that emotional baggage, right?
Well, I think what you're saying...
And living in the moment and treating each relationship as something totally new, but don't carry all that baggage from the past and be afraid to open up to me, because I love that. If you open up to me, I will totally open up to you, or I already have in most cases.
Well, what you're saying is true, but it has to come from a perspective of strength. I think when a person opens up to another person and is honest with them, it has to come from, you know, from strength and not from, you know, they're spilling their guts out, they're telling you all their troubles and you know, just looking to you as almost like a therapist, you know, like they're just, you know, it's interesting, talking about crying, you know, sort of expressing feelings. I was once asked, you know, is crying, when a man cries, is that a sign of strength?
Yes, it is.
Well,
because it takes a lot based on the way they were the way they were raised. If they were raised to, you know, oh, come on, suck it up, boy, or that kind of thing, you know, you don't show your emotions, that's wrong, because a man can also cry.
I think it's a matter of degree.
Degree?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want a wailing pussy on my hand.
That's it, exactly. So when a situation, let's say a loved one passes away, yeah, express your emotions, you can cry, but would you want a man who's crying like every day, like say, oh, my job is driving, you know, my boss yelled at me today and comes home crying, you'd say, hey, like I need a man here.
I know some queens like that.
Somewhat like that?
Queens. Oh, I'm just so upset. You know, the queens. Do you understand?
I think so. I think it's a matter of degree, and I think really the strength really comes from being a leader and making decisions and taking responsibility. And like what's been interesting with this book is that it's really set me on a journey of realizing that, you know, originally I wrote the book for myself and my friends, and I was, you know, trying to encourage men to read it, but it was women who picked up the book and say, yeah, I got to get my boyfriend, my husband, my son to read this. And I find what it really takes is a woman telling a man, yeah, this is what I want. Because men will say to me, no, this is what women want. And then a woman will say, yes, this is what we want. We want a man who's a real man, who's strong, who can show leadership. It doesn't, I've had so many single women say to me, a man asks them out, they can't even decide where to go for a cup of coffee. He wants her to decide. So I explain to them, well, when you go with a woman, she's looking at you, potential life partner. If you can't even decide where to go for a cup of coffee, and then we can't decide what table to sit at, how are you going to handle a real challenge? How are you going to handle a real problem? It's
yeah. So that's Elliott, how did men fall into this sorry state
of affairs?
A sorry state of affairs. Well, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of it has to do with men weren't. A lot of men today grew up without strong male role models. They grew up in families of divorce where they didn't have a father, or the father was really limited. Even if they had a full-time father, fathers worked long hours. And a lot of fathers thought, the raising the kids is the woman's job. Then these kids go to school. Most of their teachers are women. So where were they to get a strong male role model? Then they watch television. They see men portrayed as buffoons and idiots, really incapable. Like, just think about it. The television shows today show the husband as someone who can't handle any problems, who gets in a mess, and the wife has to come rescue him. When you think, 50 years ago, you had shows where
Ozzy.
The father would come home.
Ozzy and Harriet?
Yeah, Ozzy.
You know what I mean? Like, the father knows best, or leave it to be there. There'd be a problem. The father would come home and he would solve it.
Yeah, but you know what? The funny thing about that was the fact that the mom wasn't able to handle. She let the father be the bad guy and do the disciplining.
It's not necessarily the discipline, but it's also solving the problem.
Yeah, I know.
Those
but
shows were ideal. They weren't realistic, but the idea was the man was portrayed as someone who showed leadership and solving the problem, stepping forward and dealing with the situation. Whereas today they seem oblivious and wait for the wife to tell them what to do.
Yeah, they weren't realistic, but they were sort of, in one sense, they were showing the ideal, in a sense, of what that dynamic between a male and a female couple should be like. Perhaps, in some ways, anyways. I think
it was the right direction. It was idyllic. It wasn't realistic, but
so
it portrayed men in a more positive light than they're portrayed today. So that's why, a lot of situations today where, when I talk to men today in their 20s, 30s, 40s, they said no one's ever told them this before. Like, they didn't know.
Told them what?
That their job is to show leadership. They thought if they just do whatever their wives tell them, they're being the perfect husband, and they can't understand why their wives are fed up with them.
They're not being true to themselves, though, because just because you want to appease and listen and cooperate with your wife doesn't mean that you have to allow them to make every decision for you. That
Absolutely.
would be horrible. I don't think I'd like that. That's too much control in my hands.
Exactly.
I don't want
Stella.
it.
Stella,
I
we
don't
agree.
want it.
Yeah, we agree, Stella. We don't want too much control in your hands either.
And even in the bedroom, goddammit, once in a while, pull me by the hair, your mother, smack me down on the bed, and bang me like a screen door in a hurricane. Fuck.
I'm sorry, Elliott.
Hey!
Oh, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Men should be men. And it's not, as I explained to people, it's not about a man making all the decisions in a relationship or a family. The book is aimed at men who make no decisions, and women are just so fed up with them. Women say they feel like single parents because there's a situation at home. Well, you decide, you handle it. They think, and the man thinks he's being this nice, non-controlling guy. They're so afraid of being accused of being controlling, they just withdraw and they say, "Well, I'll let her handle it. She knows more. I'll just bring in the money, and I'm the nicest husband." And they can't understand why women are just fed up with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you bring home the bacon, a woman cooks it up in the pan. Right? So, to get back to simpler times, and I'm just playing with this idea as I'm talking, by the way, wouldn't it be nice to be able to stay at home and raise the kids instead of having to send your kids out to daycare, appease them with toys, iPods, Wi-Fi, and all that, and go back to having quality time within the family, talking to each other, instead of complaining.
Absolutely. But part of that picture that you have to include is that fathers think they work hard all day to provide for wives who stay home all day. But I tell them, you know, you still have your job at home, which is not just helping out with the kids or whatever, the housework and, you know, giving the kids baths and reading them stories, but, you know, leadership. There's problems that need to be dealt with. Step forward, find a solution, implement it. Don't leave all the problem solving to your wife. If there's a problem with your child at school, find a solution. Do some research. You know, today doing research is really easy. Get some ideas. Try to implement them.
Mm-hmm.
Be a hero. That will make you a hero to your wife.
Right.
And your family.
And yeah.
Elliott, you mentioned that it's been a journey since you wrote the book. You kind of wrote it as a personal project just for friends and family and stuff like that. And you mentioned that women have really kind of are the ones that tend to instantly gravitate to the book.
Yeah, it's
right?
fascinating
for their guys. But what are guys telling you? Because I'm sure you've interacted with some men as well.
There's sort of two ranges of response. There's the fellow who says, no, this isn't what women want. You know, I'll just do whatever she wants. No, I don't want to be controlled. There's that range. And then there's the other range where they say, no one ever told me this before. How come no one ever told me this? You know, a lot of divorced men will say, oh, yeah, if I would have known this, maybe I wouldn't be divorced today. I've had divorced women say the same thing. If my husband had understood this, we probably would not be divorced today.
But here's what I find. If women are reading this book and they want to get their men to read it,
right?
Why not, after reading this book, try and implement these ideas yourself without making the guy read it? Because that's the first thing a guy's going to say. He's going to balk, step back, and say, I ain't going to read this fucking thing, right?
Well, I was on one radio show where the host said she was going to give the book to her husband and tell him to read it. It's a short read, take about an hour. And then she'd be waiting for him in the bedroom in her negligee. You know,
forget the negligee, just be naked. Every guy responds to that.
Okay.
Right,
this is what she said. But, you know, some incentive, some reward.
Maybe you should have an exercise companion book for this,
Exercise
Elliott.
companion?
You know, like day one, you read this and then you have an exercise. Day two.
You can incorporate fellatio and cunnilingus and all those wonderful things and say, this is what you get today. How many chapters did you do? Finish the whole book, honey? Round the world in 80 ways.
You see, Stella, we didn't need Dr. Sex on the show today.
Because I did it.
Well, Stella, maybe you could write that in your blog. Is that
encourage that sort of thing, Stella. Now, is it as simple as it sounds for a guy who wants to kind of adopt some of the ideas of the book? Like, how easy is it to implement?
Well, that's a good question because, you know, a lot of guys will tell me, I've been married for 10 years. She's been making all the decisions. How do I change things? Or they'll say, you know, I tried to show leadership, but she wouldn't let me. She undermined me. So first thing I tell them, don't, you know, if your wife is making all the decisions and she makes a decision about something, unless you think that it's a dangerous decision, don't say to her, oh, no, we're not doing that. We're going to do the complete opposite because I'm going to show you I'm the leader. That's disaster. That's undermining her, and that's not showing leadership. It's being stupid. The thing is, look for problems and situations that are not being dealt with. You know, with your children, with your home. Like, see something that needs to be done and step forward. You know, that's showing leadership. Find a solution, implement it, take charge. And at first, she may try to undermine you, but just keep on. Just say, you know, would you support me on this? You know, and just keep on doing it. She may not believe it out, you know, the first couple of times. But just keep on, and then she'll say, "Wow, this is the man I want. This is the man who's my hero." And that I mean, when you think about it, that's really what we expect in other leadership situations. Nobody's going to tell the man, and this is what men say. You know, my wife didn't let me, but nobody's going to let you. Your wife's not going to tell you show leadership. It says the leader has to show leadership, and people may disagree with him.
Take the lead and dance.
People may try to undermine him, but that's something you have to deal with. If your wife disagrees with you. I get this question. So listen, if she's making a good point that, hey, you know, I didn't think of that. She's got a valid point. Then you should compromise. You know, accommodate that comment because obviously, being stubborn and, you know, sticking to your own way is being stupid. But if you see that you think she's really just testing you to see if you're strong, if you really mean it, then you have to, you know, stick to it and say, no, it's really important we do it this way and just do it. And she will respect you for sticking, you know, to your position.
I'm sure you talked to many people before writing this book, many men. Did you ever think that maybe relationships aren't as good today because everybody believes in the fallacy of giving only 50%. So if you and I are in a relationship, you're giving 50, I'm giving 50. Together we are not giving our whole selves into the relationship. So why not change that and say, everybody give all of yourself? Because in the end, you don't keep score of, oh, he forgot this, he gave me that, and you keep tabs on gifts and everything else.
Right.
In the end, it all works out anyhow.
Stella, what you're saying is very true. But what I tell men is that, you know, it's easy. You know, I remember going to a men's group, and every single man, he said the only solution to improving their relationship was for their wives to change. Like that was, and like that was the only solution. They could not see how they needed to change. And you could wait a long time. You could wait decades for the other person to change. So it's nice to say, yes, both people should give 100%. My wife should give 100%, and I'll give 100%. But you know, the only person you can change is yourself.
Be the change you want to see.
That's right. And look at yourself. Look how you have to change. And the other, you know, you want to change the world, start by changing yourself, and people will respond differently to you. Yes. So show leadership, you know, create the kind of situation you want. Act in a way that will get the response that you want. Don't just say, well, you know, if you want the marriage to be better, you have to do all these things. You may be waiting a long time for that.
You know, I'm thinking, Elliott, that maybe too, I mean, you're talking about guys who are in relationships already or married, that this is, you know, some great wisdom for them. But I'm thinking even for single guys that want to attract women or want to be ready when that relationship does come, that it might be ideal for them as well.
Absolutely. You know, I see all these single guys, like that situation I was describing. They go, I was in Starbucks the other day, this young couple comes in, and they get their coffee, and you can see it's kind of like the first date because they're kind of nervous. The guy turns to the woman and says, well, where would you like to sit? And I thought,
mistake.
You can't look out. This is a difficult one. Look out all the tables and find the nicest one and suggest one. Let's go sit there. You know, if she doesn't like it, she'll tell you. But just to show that you can't make any decisions, that you're going to leave all the decisions on her, is not good. And it's interesting. Like a lot of women will say that. Like they like a man with a plan. If a man's calling up a woman to ask her out, you know, have a plan. If she doesn't like it, if you want to,
she'll let you know.
She'll let you know. If you want to go to a fish restaurant and she has an anaphylactic reaction to the smell of fish, she'll tell you.
Exactly.
But
well,
you
that
have
would be,
a plan.
Yeah.
Because it shows that you care about her. It shows that this is important to you.
Yes.
It shows that you're showing leadership.
You know, sometimes I think in what I've observed, and I don't know if this is a topic of your book, but a lot of times in relationships, it's like the man and the women are two different species.
They are.
And they, but they're because of they aren't able to communicate, like truly communicate with a lot of bandwidth, right? Whereas, and to me, that's a sign that either the guys aren't understanding the women, or that the women aren't understanding the guys. That the men are from Mars, the women are from Venus, and never the twain shall meet.
Oh, I disagree.
But Elliott,
men and women are very different, and it's interesting that men don't understand what women are looking for in a relationship, and women don't understand what men are looking for. But you know, it's interesting about communication, because there's a scene in the book where, you know, the grandfather's talking to his grandson, right, and the grandson's saying how his wife will ask him to do something, just keep repeating and repeating and repeating it. So the grandfather says, well, you know, in my day we call that nagging, and so he says, well, my wife says she's trying to communicate with me. So that's really, in many situations, that's what communication has become. People think communication is, well, I have to complain to this person and tell them all my complaints about them. Mm-hmm. You're just shaking your head, but a lot of people, that's what they,
I know,
don't you want
but
me to
that
communicate?
is totally the wrong
No,
approach.
it is wrong. So really, is that working? Is that effective? No, it just makes things worse. So really, I don't think it's about communication. I think it's about your actions. It's, you know,
actions speak louder
acting
than words.
in a way that will get the response that you want. You know, respecting the other person, respecting yourself.
And that's a big, that should be, you shouldn't have to even say that. Everybody should be respecting everybody.
But often, you know, you get into these discussions about, well, what does a woman really want? Does she want that sensitive, nice guy, or does she want the bad boy, right?
Both.
So, well,
a little bit of both.
I think it's neither. I think it's the strong man who's respectful to her, but also respects himself.
Yes, but a bit of the bad boy is more like the wild side, you know, get on your Harley and ride with me, baby. That's nice too.
Do you have your Harley here, Stella?
No, I don't.
She's looking for a strong man who's got a Harley. You have a Harley, Elliott?
And a couple of other things too, but we won't get into that. Everybody has the criterion.
Elliott, okay, so we're gonna, you know, yes, we've already said people can email us here at the station, and we'll give them a copy of the book, but we may run out like we did the last time. And where can people get their hands on the book if they need to?
Well, it's available, excuse me, in bookstores, or if they're sold out, they'll order it for you, and it's also on Amazon. And if they want to contact me directly, they can go to my website, which is awardpress.com.
Award Press?
AWARD press.com.
Okay.
And you can email me through there.
And what are you working on now, Elliott? Have you got a
Changing the world.
Really?
Because I realize this is really a crucial issue that you know, so many families are breaking up. There's so much divorce. So many boys are growing up without realizing what a man should be. It's really a big problem. I mean, so many people both men and women are growing up without fathers, you know, because of divorce and all these things. It's a really big situation.
So, what are you writing another book, or
no,
what are you doing?
I'm just trying to get
this
out, just trying to get this book out and the ideas in the book out, just to get people to realize, you know, this is a serious situation. I just wrote an article. It's in the Huffington Post, and I was telling a story about how my daughter called me. You know, I was in this office situation, open concept, and my daughter called me, and I was giving her some advice and some guidance. And this young woman was listening in. And I thought it was fine. And then after she said, you know, you gave her good advice. You know, my parents got divorced when I was 11, and I haven't had a father for the past 10 years. I could just see like the hunger for having a father, a male role model who can give her that fatherly advice from a male perspective.
Right.
That you know, that women don't give daughters and sons. You know, it's, you know, I asked this question when I talked to groups: what does a father give to children that a mother can't? And they sort of look at me and nobody knows. Well, a father shows his children what it means to be a man. You know, a mother can teach a son about being a man, but she can't show him.
No.
You know, there's a real sad situation in the world of so many children, especially boys, growing up without strong male role models.
And you know what? It just occurred to me. It seems to me, at least in Toronto, and it's probably not just Toronto, there's a lot of single women out there that are going, I can't find a guy that I want to be with. There's a lot of guys out there, but they can't find one that they want to be with.
They want a real man. That's why from single women, I say, I don't want to use the N word, but they say, oh, the guys I meet are nerds.
Yeah.
Like they say, you know, they can't make a decision. You know, they want a man who's strong. They want a man who's could be a husband.
You know, maybe you should open up some sort of finishing school for men.
For men?
Yeah.
Can I teach
Sure.
at that finishing school? Because
Well, they can start by reading the book. You know, a lot of times I get emails from people. I say, well, you know, read the book. It's, you know, your wife's been ruling your life. Like, it's time to step forward. And they say, oh, she undermines me. Be a man. Step forward. That's what's lacking today.
All right. Well, Elliott,
Men who know how to be men.
Well, they know now that they can find out. Being the Strong Man a Woman Wants, Elliott Katz, available at your bookstore, Amazon, Indigo, all that, plus your site, awardpress.com, right, Elliott?
Great to be
all
here.
right. Did we miss anything?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
Anything else you wanted to add?
Okay, Elliott, thanks for coming
thanks
in
for
again
having me.
today and bringing a couple of books by. And yes, email us at contactus@thatchannel.com, and we'll get you one of these until they're gone. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now. Johnny Smash is in the house. We're going to play some video and come back with Johnny Smash, who looks like he just joined the Army. We'll be right back here on
Yeah, is this the
ThatChannel.com.
National Guard or what?
Light years away, dark days ahead, diving into the unknown, crawling out of bed, holding out my hand, holding up my head. The things I didn't notice when it was